Okay everyone, welcome back to the next section. Hopefully you had a nice little break. Obviously some of these sections can be quite long, I appreciate that. So here we are. Anyway, what we're going to be doing in this section, we're going to be proving to ourselves that every single month of every single year, there's a repeatable pattern to these data points. I cannot stress this enough. And the reason I go on and on about this, it actually still amazes me to this day how much this changed things for me, especially when I was in investment banking and I was trying to understand economic data. It was so overwhelming even for me, and I never got explained this to me, and I just don't know why. I've never seen this anywhere. Even in all my years of institutional trading, no one ever told me, hey, this is how you should lay things out. First week of the month, you got this piece of data. Second week, always inflation. I was all over the place, and maybe you're not, but I think the majority of people are. Are you ever thinking a month ahead? Hey, next month, I know in the second week I got inflation data. Most people don't even begin to think that way, and this is going to stand you so far ahead of anyone else. Forget about retail, which I always go on about. Institutional even, most guys, I won't say most, but obviously the very best, they're aware. But a lot of even institutional traders take it week by week and all of that, and should know well in advance. I've got inflation in a couple of weeks coming up. All right, I don't need to worry about it right now. That's when I'll start to focus on it. Market might start to focus on it on end of week 1 into week 2. It's just going to be completely change the dial for you to start looking at things like this. And that's why I wanted to do this section, because it's not good enough for me to just tell you this, right? I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want to actually show you how incredible this is, and just how true what I'm telling you is. I want you to prove it to yourself. And number 3, it is important, as I said in Pro Foundation, that everything you do, you check for yourself. Never take, even me, I'm putting myself down here. Do not take my word for anything. Double, triple check everything that you're doing, and make sure it's correct. Because otherwise, how are you going to put your own money on it? It's unbelievable. I see this time and time again, especially in the retail sector, where people are just take people's word for things and then start trading their money on it. It's completely crazy. I mean, check things for yourself. And the advantage you've got here is I'm not one of those type of people, and that's why obviously hopefully you love this course, and it really is one of the best courses ever on fundamentals, is because I'm not just going to say to you, hey, here's an exercise I want you to do. We're going to do it together. Okay, so you can kind of go through it. You can pause if you want and try it for yourself, come back to it. I'm going to do the entire thing with you, don't worry, so you know that you're doing it correctly. So let's get on with it. Now, first thing, just very quickly, I put the trade balance here on the Friday, and I forgot to say that normally it is here on earlier in the week around a Thursday, but I've got this thing about everything being neat. I like things being neat, and I just didn't want to put the trade balance on the same line as core PCE. And we're just roughly here. We know trade balance will be in week 4, typically, because it's about, I think it said 30 days, didn't it? Here, the scheduling, yeah. So about 30 days after month ends. So we know it's going to be at the end of the month. Whether you put it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's fine. Typically it will be a Thursday. I just put it here because I don't want overlaps. I want to make this as nice, neat, compact as possible, so it's easy for me to retain in my memory. And that's why, and for you guys as well, and ladies as well, and that's why I wanted to do it like this. So that was just a little side note I was making. So what we'll do, right, let's go through, let's not worry too much about these periphery ones for now. Let's quickly fly through, and honestly, if you've not seen this before, your jaw is going to drop. What have I been doing all these years not following data in this format? It's going to really open up a whole world for you. So I'm really excited to show you just how this actually happens, and you'll just be amazed that no one looks at it in this way. It is actually just amazes me, and that's why I keep going on about it. We've done January, but let's just do it again. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do the whole year, right? I want you to switch off the low impact news. Just got the US on there, or whatever country it is that you look at, obviously. First week of the month, right? What did we say? What are we expecting in the first week of the month? Manufacturing, services and payrolls. This is the first week of January. So I want you to go back to the start of any year. It doesn't matter. I'm obviously here in 2021, 22, New Year's, doing this on New Year's Day, as sad as it is, but around New Year's, the day after New Year's. So obviously I've got the whole year of next year, but if you're in the middle of the year, you can go back to the start of the year or the year before. It doesn't matter. This, for as long as I know, this is how economic data has fallen. Okay, so the first week of the month, manufacturing. Can you see it? Yes, we do. Manufacturing, services. There we go. Services, payrolls. Yep. Thank you very much. Okay, so it fell exactly as I expected. The only reason that it didn't fall on a Monday is because this is a New Year's week. Obviously, you know, with it being the bank holiday delay, and for whatever reason, the data was released one business day later, probably because of holidays, etc. But it will revert back to normal in a normal month. But essentially, you can see it for yourself. Manufacturing, services, payrolls first week. Let's go to the second week. We're expecting CPI, and what do we have? CPI. Okay. Retail sales has become a day early. It's because of the way either the week fell, or the Census Bureau has managed to collate the data slightly early. So what they'll do, they'll obviously, and we're going to go through this, don't worry, I've got some amazing stuff still to come in terms of the data. The Census Bureau will collate all this data, and sometimes they might get it a day early. You can see here 14, 16, 16, 17. It will vary by a day or so. And by the way, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna delete that row because I think I was covering a little bit of this cell just as a bottom. It's just bugging me a little bit. So there we go. So yeah, like I said, you can see that on this particular month, the data, instead of it being in the following week, week 3, it's a day early, okay? And that's gonna happen from time to time. Very, very rare. It can just be sometimes, because you can see here the way the first fell towards the end of the month. It can be because of the New Year period. It can be very, very variety of reasons. The Census Bureau more than likely managed to get the data because they're relying on, you know, they send out these surveys and whatever it is to get all the data in for what retail sales were. Once everyone gives their submissions in, and if they come in on time, you know, and it's come in just before kind of the weekends, why wait? Because then you have to wait 3 days and do it the following week. So on the odd occasion, if the data comes in early, you'll see it in the second week. But as you're going to see, typically it will be the third week that you get retail sales. But then we know straight away, right, by having this template, hey, I had retail sales in week 2. So next week, it's going to be very quiet in terms of economic data, right? I could potentially have FOMC, but that's going to be it. I don't need to worry about retail sales. So it's not even a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing, because you know, I normally get retail sales in week 3 for this particular month because of whatever reason. Maybe it was a new year or whatever. It's come out a couple days early on a Friday. Hey, next week, no retail sales. Okay, so in this particular month, the following week, there you go. Very quiet week. Okay, you knew straight away it was going to be a quiet week. You don't even need the calendar, right? And then week 4, without even looking, GDP. I know it's going to be there. Hopefully it is. Yeah, it's there. There you go. Advanced GDP. There. Go. Like clockwork, guys. Okay, cannot tell you how unbelievable this is going to be for you understanding data. No more reliance on all these data calendars that are just data dumps, basically. No, we're going to look at things in a proper professional manner now, right? We should know this without having to look here. Yep, GDP next week. I already know it's coming. And there. We've got the FOMC. Let's ignore the FOMC for now. Don't worry, we're going to build our own FOMC calendar. You can see it there, the red tab. Can you see the FOMC here? 27th of January. So there we go, 27th of January. Okay, so I know it's coming. It's just like I said, it can vary. Just make sure I'm not blocking anything here. It can vary, the FOMC, throughout the year. They typically meet 8 times, I think it is, 8 times a year. The weeks will typically be week 3, week 4, as I've said. So you can see it here in this particular month, it was week 4. But I like to keep it just separate because it can vary a little bit. And as I mentioned, I just put it there anyway. FOMC can vary. This particular month, it just happened to be on, excuse me, the week 4. And therefore, it's fascinating. In a normal month, if the FOMC never fell on week 4, then there'll be a lot of attention, or maybe more attention, on GDP. Can you see? The fact that FOMC did fall on week 4, more attention is on FOMC. Can you see how amazingly organized, how much of an advantage you can now have over every trader, really? Because especially commercial traders, retail traders, will not be thinking this way. They will not be thinking, they'll be thinking, I got this, I got that next week. FOMC is now next week. So actually, I know GDP is coming next week, but the market's probably going to focus more on FOMC. So this particular month, the GDP release may not be so important. Do you see, you can start thinking about these things well in advance. I can know this at the start of the month, right? Because I can check my FOMC calendar, right? I'll be checking that. I'll be thinking, okay, this month I've got FOMC on the 27th, right? Oh, I got GDP this month, and we're going to do this, don't worry. Well, we're going to start setting our stall out 6, 8, 7, 8 weeks in advance. We're going to know weeks in advance that this week 4 has FOMC, and GDP will likely not have as much attention, or it doesn't have FOMC and therefore GDP will have attention, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's why it's really important to have these laid out. Let's go to February. What are we expecting in the first week, right? Manufacturing, services and payrolls. What do we get? Manufacturing, services and payrolls. Okay, I'd be looking very silly if it didn't happen that way, but it does, and I know it does, and it's happened for years, decades, and it will keep happening this way. Of course, unless there's a drastic change, and obviously you can address that, but it's not going to. Okay, this is it. This is how it works. Manufacturing, services, payrolls, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Manufacturing Monday, services Wednesday, and payrolls Friday. You can even play a game, right, with yourself. Sorry, it's February, isn't it? First week of February. Before you even gone to week 2, right, of that month, what are you expecting? CPI, right? You can play a game with yourself. Let me see if CPI is in week 2, or when's retail sales this month? Week 3. You can play a game with yourself, right? Let me go to week 3, retail sales. Okay, week 2, inflation. Okay, as we've got here. Okay, Wednesday. Okay, week 3, retail sales. Right. Obviously, as I said, sometimes it can fall one day here or there. Okay, not a big deal. You can see that 15, 16, 17. When the data is ready. And it's always for the previous month. Okay, so here's February 17. That's for January. So what happens, okay, the way it works, and I've explained this many times, but I will keep saying it. Let's say this is January. Okay, we're now in February. This retail sales, can you see it took them about 2.5 weeks to collect the data for January, and then the number gets released. Bang, there you go. Oh, retail sales were up, just under 6% month on month, massive jump, but 6% month on month in January. Okay, it takes them 2.5 weeks. The reason I'm saying this is because sometimes it might take them, instead of taking them 2.5 weeks, it might take them 2.25. Basically, instead of taking 15 days, it might take them 14 days, it might take them 16 days, but it's always roughly the same. That's why sometimes retail sales might fall on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. You saw in January, it fell a couple days earlier on the Friday, but you can see it's always in the rough ballpark. I'm explaining to you why that is. Can you see obviously the agency that collects retail sales, the Census Bureau, it takes them time sometimes to collect. It always takes them time to get all the respondents back from, all the retailers and wherever. And we're going to cover this, don't worry, in a separate section, where they're getting the data from. It takes them time, okay? And sometimes that can be 15 days, 16 days, whatever it is, but typically it's around here, and that's why we have it bang on as expected. The minutes, we'll come back to that in a sec because it is in our secondary tab there. The FOMC minutes you see there, basically 3 weeks after the FOMC meeting. So we're going to close that. Okay. What are we expecting in week 4? GDP. Do we get GDP? Yes, GDP. There you go. And it's the preliminary version, right? Because don't forget, in January we had advanced GDP. 30 days later you get the preliminary version, which is secondary data. So really in this particular week, there's no data, right, of note. We'll talk about the speeches. Obviously you have Fed Chairman Powell here testifying. But again, these days can vary and it's a little bit ad hoc. That's why I've put here other. When we are setting our stall out for the next 8 weeks, we can make these fine-tuning adjustments, right? Things like retail sales, if in our main template we've got it on Tuesday and we check the calendar for the next 6-8 weeks and we know it's on a Wednesday, we can make fine-tuning. Right? That's fine. Completely different to waking up on a Tuesday morning and checking what data I have today. No, that's complete and utter amateurish, right? At least know this is what's happening, okay? When I come closer to the time, I'll just double check to make sure the exact day is correct. That's absolutely fine. Okay, let's go to March. Go through this together. What are we expecting in the first week? Manufacturing services, yeah, look at that. Manufacturing, services, non-farm employment. Light clockwork, guys, okay? Light clockwork. CPI week 2. CPI week 2. You know, I really don't know what else I can say to you. Hopefully most of your jaws are dropping now, thinking, wow, fantastic. This is brilliant. It's going to make my life easier. This is very, hopefully, value adding to you to see things in this way. Retail sales. And this time it did fall on the Tuesday. We got FOMC on March 17th. Like I said, don't worry. We're going to have our FOMC calendar, which we're going to build together. Okay, I'm going to build that with you. So I'm going to have you build this. So don't worry. FOMC March 17th. Okay. So you'll know this well in advance. Here we go, March 17th. Like I said, sometimes difficult to get the exact week. This time it did fall in week 3, which we have there. Week 4, we're expecting the final GDP, right? Which we've got here, final GDP. Okay, as expected. Some speeches which you can make a little note of. It's absolutely fine. Let's go to the next month, April. This is a bit of an awkward month, which might not follow the perfect schedule, because can you see the first? It falls towards the end of the month. You see in March, the first fell on a Monday at the start of the week, right? Monday, Tuesday is fine. Then it will obviously follow a perfect, because you know, when we build a template, of course, we're assuming, relatively speaking, we have a perfect month, you know, with week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Here's, you know, like week 1, 2, 3, 4. But sometimes what will happen, and then obviously there is a little bit of the following week there. If the following month starts right towards the end of the month, obviously it'll squeeze things a little bit, right? So let's see what happened anyway, but I suspect it will have a little bit of a squeezing effect. Yeah, can you see there? The manufacturing came late in the week, as in on a Thursday instead of a Monday. Why? Because it's the first, look, released monthly on the first business day. The first business day was quite late in the month, late in the week, I beg your pardon, here. You know, ordinarily, the first business day will be somewhere around here. This time, it was right there. So obviously, it squeezed everything towards the end of the week. But we don't care. Does that, just because that happened, is manufacturing suddenly now in week 4? No, it's not. It's in the same place. It's just a day or two here or there. That's why it's so important to not be thrown off by these little calendar changes. It's absolutely fine, okay? It's not a big deal at all. It's still exactly where we expect it. And don't forget, we're going to set the stall out for the next 8 weeks anyway. Every kind of month or couple of weeks, we can be tweaking, fine tweaking. We'll know well in advance. Okay, just remember, manufacturing is going to be a few days off the template. but ultimately it's still there. First week, you got payrolls like clockwork as expected. Because things obviously got pushed, can you see the services got pushed into the Monday? Because services is on the third business day, right? So 1, 2, and the third business day pushed it into the following week. Okay, so no big deal. And then if we go to the following week, we got CPI, which was slightly late. Usually can be a little bit earlier, but on this occasion it was slightly late. Do you see in the previous months, 10th, sometimes it gets released a little bit late. 13th, again, the BLS, the Bureau of Labour Statistics, don't forget, they don't just pluck these numbers out of thin air, right? They do a massive exercise where they will be sending out surveys or, trying to find out the prices of different items. This can take time. Sometimes they may receive the data back from a certain sector slightly late when they're putting the inflation data together, and therefore it's not going to be exactly as you want it to, but also it was a late start to the month, which squeezed things as well. So variety of reasons. It's slightly, talking a couple days later. What's actually happened is, because that week, in fact I just noticed, what's actually happened is this week is so short, it's almost not like a week 1. It's almost like that's become week 1, that's become week 2, that's become week 3, that's become week 4. Okay, so it is actually, if you look at it that way, it's actually perfect. It's in the right place, right? It's in week 2, basically. It's that week was so late it got squashed. You could almost consider that not to even be a week. So that's actually what's happened. So we'll go on to the next one, which is retail sales. So you've got retail sales there. Again, because the way the week is laid out, slightly different. And to be fair, it is actually a couple of days early. If you remember, do you see retail sales normally comes around the 16th, 17th, March 17th, February 17th. They've got the data slightly early again, 15, so absolutely fine. On this occasion, they've pushed it here. We now know that the following week is likely to be very, very quiet unless we have FOMC in April, which is on the 28th. So actually, there is no FOMC. So I would expect the following week to be very quiet. Let's have a look. There we go. See that? I knew it was going to be quiet before I even looked at it, right? Imagine being able to know what a calendar is likely to be like before you even click on it. Now you can see why I wanted to do this exercise with you, because I didn't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to see for yourself, how powerful and how much easier you can make your life and how much better you can be than the next trader at understanding how the weeks are laid out. And it all starts here, knowing kind of the map, right? Very liberating feeling, knowing these things in advance. Then obviously the FOMC we just talked about and the advanced GDP week 4. Let's just rush through this now a little bit more just to pick up the speed. June week 1, what are we expecting? Manufacturing, bank holiday, therefore obviously got pushed. Or to be fair, it was the first business day, is the first, so actually it's in the right place. Manufacturing, services, payrolls. What do we have? Manufacturing, services, payrolls. Week 2, what are we expecting? CPI. Okay. Hopefully this is becoming very clear to you now. Retail sales week 3. GDP week 4. Okay. July. First week of July. Again, can you see? A bit of that squashed month, a little bit like how we had April. See how the first fell on a Thursday? April there, first fell on the Thursday. Same thing, right? So we know services is going to fall on the Monday because of that. See, use that to your advantage. Don't be thrown off by these things. Actually, the template still works perfectly, right? We just know services is on the third business day. There aren't 3 business days in this particular month. There's only 2. In this particular week, there's only 2. Okay, so manufacturing as expected, payrolls. We know services is going to be on the Monday. Is it? Yes, it is. Okay. Don't forget, remember how we said the retail sales will now, in fact, let's check where retail sales fall. So, sorry, the CPI will likely now get pushed because that is no longer week one. It's almost like that becomes week one because it's not a full week, and then these become 2, 3, 4. So we almost expect the CPI to be the following week. Let's have a look. There we go. I do get nervous when I show you guys these things, because if it doesn't fall there, then obviously I end up looking a little bit silly. But no. Like I said, I've been doing this for years, and I kind of like to put my money where my mouth is, right? So obviously you guys know Pro Foundation. Obviously I show you trading examples of me trading, my YouTube live trading, all of that. Here I want to put my neck on the line a little bit and show you, before I even click on the week, that guys, this is what's going to happen, because it really solidifies and gives credibility to what I'm setting you up to do. I want to make sure that you have confidence in this. So you can see the CPI there, retail sales again, slightly early on the Friday, 1 day early, as we now know, going through them. Sometimes the Census Bureau does get the data slightly early. Think about it, if the data's ready on Thursday night, right, why not release it on a Friday? Why wait? Because then you've got the weekend, you're giving the, in the Census Bureau, a lot of people are relying on this data. The earlier the better, gives them also a lot of credibility to get it out there earlier. Week 4, nothing, because we had the retail sales there, so we know, week 3, this kind of week 3, week 4, depending on how you want to label it, because obviously there was only 2 days in the first week, so you could almost not count that as a week, count this as week 3. July, look, we know from our FOMC calendar, which we're going to build together, that there is an FOMC meeting next week, and the final week. So we know this final week, couple of things. It's going to have GDP, but not the, in fact, is it going to have advanced GDP? Well, it will for Q2, right? For January, February, March, April, May, June is Q2. So we're going to have advanced GDP. Well, FOMC is the following week. So we know that it's going to be really big week, normally for GDP focus, but we've got FOMC, so it may overshadow it. Excuse me. So we know this in advance. There we go. Advanced GDP, FOMC, right? Honestly, I love it to this day. Just knowing gives me, think of how much edge you have over other people in the market, right? Just knowing. How many people do you know who could have just done that? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in advance. Say, hey, you know what? At the end of July, advanced GDP, and I got FOMC. Let me start thinking about those things. Whole different world, isn't it? Complete different way of looking at data and being able to know these things in advance. Let's now go to August, right? Play the game. What are we expecting on week 1? We already know. On that Monday, manufacturing, Wednesday, services, Friday, payrolls. Again, I'm going to look, and you guys know me. I've not done this exercise. It's the first time I'm doing it as part of building this course. And I'm not going to spend 2 hours before doing the module. I'm obviously doing this live. First hand, I've not checked this. I'm going to look silly when I reveal this. Let's have a look. Perfect. Manufacturing on Monday, services on Wednesday, payrolls on Friday. Okay. Do you see? Don't need the calendar. You do. Obviously, you want to check that the data's right, and we are going to use the calendar to develop all these tabs to build the data. You see all this data? I've extracted it from these data sources. But that's about the extent of it, okay? I'm not going to sit here checking this calendar every morning until the news is released. Only when the number comes out, I can come here and just check what was the number. But most of my analysis, it's not going to involve the calendar. I already know well in advance. Week 2, what we're expecting, CPI, there it is on the Wednesday, right? What are we expecting in week 3? We already know. Retail sales, right? There we go. Retail sales. On the Tuesday as well. Do we have any FOMC this month? Let's have a look. So FOMC calendar. Nope, nothing in August. So I already know that the final week, right, is going to be quiet. Why? Because I had advanced GDP already in July for Q2. August, I'm going to have the preliminary, the second one, which isn't that important. And I've got no FOMC. So I'm expecting a very quiet week. There you go. Look, preliminary GDP, not that important. I've already had final, as I said. There's really not much there. Maybe Fed Chairman Powell speaks, and even those speeches tend not to be that important. I think I already mentioned that. because he's not actually doing anything. He's hinting, or he's not changing the rates. He's not doing anything, right? He's actually just giving some hints here or there. That's it. There's nothing else, okay? Obviously, most important are the actual meetings. But we can have a quick look at the speeches, but really not that important. Very quiet week, right? Really not much going on. To be fair, I did miss this, but we have got it in our template. Do you see, it's so important to have the template. Jackson Hole was that week, and I did forget to mention that actually. So basically, I think I mentioned to you, the Kansas Fed host all the central bankers. So just confirm that. Yeah, Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas. It's held in Jackson Hole, and what they do is it's attended by central bankers, finance ministers, academics, blah blah blah. Meetings are closed to the press, so it's behind closed doors, but officials usually talk with reporters throughout the day. So comments and speeches from central bankers and other influential officials can create significant market volatility, and I have found it to be significantly market moving, because sometimes, you know, a lot of these central bankers, they're from all over the world, and they can use it as an opportunity to influence the market, you know, like, because if you think about it, here, there's no meeting. There's no FOMC get together until September. So the Fed, Powell, whoever else is talking to the press can use that meeting as an opportunity, because they know there's no FOMC for another 4 weeks. There's a gap. Do you see, July, there's no August meeting. They can use Jackson Hole as an opportunity to influence or dictate or inform, I should say, the market that, hey, this is what's on our mind. You know, inflation is on our mind, or, you know, the jobs market is on our mind, and we're going to talk about that FOMC, don't worry, but, you know, this is an opportunity for them to really let the market know what they're thinking, and that will obviously influence the market. So it's very, very important, that meeting. Let's now skip towards September. First week, we know, you see how the first is slightly late, but it's okay because there's 3 business days. So I think services would have fallen on the Friday, manufacturing on the Monday, and payrolls obviously on the Friday, which hopefully is the case. There you can see it. Manufacturing, services on the Friday, we said, 3rd business day, payrolls, yeah, okay. So don't forget, I forgot to mention this, crude oil inventories. Obviously, if you do trade crude, make sure you have that on your calendar, Wednesday, Thursday, every week. It will be there like clockwork. Second week, we got the PPI, and then third week, CPI was slightly later, just because it got squeezed in terms of the... So what basically happens, right? Can you see when this first falls slightly late in the week, it's almost like that isn't a week. This becomes week 1, that becomes week 2, that becomes week 3. And that's why you see CPI tend to get forced into that week, because it almost becomes like the week 2. Then you've got retail sales as well. So let's just have a look here. Retail sales. Yeah, so you've got retail sales here. Now again, retail sales, because this week gets pushed, right? Retail sales, it can be a little bit artificial. It gets dragged into that week, okay? In terms of the timing, that timing is actually right. If you think about when previous retail sales were, do you see 15, 16, 17? It's around about the right ballpark figure. Sometimes it can be early, obviously a couple days early, as I said. That wasn't the case, okay? So don't get confused and think, hey, the agency, the bureau, Census Bureau that collects this data has actually managed to get the data early. It's not that. It's because of the artificial way that the week started on the 1st in the middle of the week. 16 days happen to fall kind of in this. Do you see, it's kind of, it's debatable whether that is week 1 or whether that is week 1, because that's only half a week. So it depends how you argue it, okay? So it's just artificial that if you think that is week 1, then it's kind of week 2. If you consider that to be week 1, then retail sales is in the right place, week 3, okay? So it's just artificial, just the way the calendar falls sometimes. But ultimately, as I keep saying, it's not like suddenly retail sales is there. It's not. It's where it's supposed to be. Everything's working exactly as it should. This double check shows us that. Then we've got FOMC on September 22nd, which, can you see that there? So obviously very, very important. and then we can almost go on to, we've got the final GDP, which again isn't that important for that particular week. We can actually go into October now. October, again, bit of an awkward month in terms of where things fall, right? Because can you see the first, it's the only day in the whole week there. So we're kind of expecting manufacturing, because it's the first business day, to be there. Okay. Now, you know what? We were expecting payrolls. First Friday after the month ends. What's the first Friday after the month ended? That. Okay. This is the only month in the whole year where it wasn't on that day. Okay. It's actually, there we go, on the 8th. Okay. That doesn't mean that this doesn't work. In fact, it does very, very well. Have a guess, right? Maybe pause this video. Try and have a guess why you think on this 1 month the payrolls got pushed to the next Friday. Okay. The problem is they can't do it on the Monday because it's always on the Friday. Okay, it's the way the release happens. They can't do it on the Monday. It's always on the Friday. Why do you think that it didn't happen? Okay, now I've never checked this, but I'm almost 100% certain why this is. This is why I say sometimes, you just got to use your analytical, critical thinking. And for me, it makes total sense. And I am almost 100% certain that the reason this happened. Right, so do you remember what I said, right? These agencies, right? So in this instance, it's the, what they call the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS. They are collecting data, okay, from X, Y, Z industry about the payroll situation. They're putting it all together and they're coming up with this number. What normally happens, right, on a given normal month, let's say September, August, whatever that month is. Let's say it's August. Would you agree? Friday the 6th, right, there. Sorry, just click the week so you can see it's actually Friday the 6th. There you go. Can you see? Friday the 6th, there. The payrolls data came out, right? So as we expect on a first Friday, what data is that for? It's for July, the month before. Remember how we said the month before here and then the data is for that previous month. How many days did the Bureau have to collect this data? When did the previous month end? July. It ended here, didn't it? A week earlier. See, they had this entire week to collect data even after the month ended. So, it would have been, it's got 30 days or 31, I can't even remember. 31 days, Sunday the 31st. Don't forget, you can't collect data for a month that hasn't ended. The month needs to end first, okay? So you've got July 31st. Month ends, then the data starts coming in, right? They get all the data. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 5-6 days to put all this data together for July and then release it. What happened in the month we're just looking at now? How is it different? Right? We'll look at October. When did the previous month end? Now October, right, is the data for September. When did it end? The day before, right? Can you see? In August, the Bureau had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Here, how many days did they have to collect the data and put it together? Nothing. They would have had data pouring through on the September the 30th. They're trying to give us data for September and then release it on the next day. Not going to happen, right? Very, very difficult for them. That is why I've never double checked this. You're welcome. I'm not even going to bother because I'm almost 100% certain that is what the reason was. And I don't even know if you'll be able to Google or find it anywhere. Like I said, to me, it's just obvious that they then push it to that week because it gives them a few days here to collect the data for September, right? Makes sense, right? So that is why do I go on and on about that? Because it's the most important, along with the FOMC, release of the month, you need to know these things about, it's good to know. It's good to know. You don't have to know. I mean, obviously you've got the calendar there to tell you, oh, on this particular month it's a week late, but it's good to know. Good to know these things. That's my guess. That's why it came in slightly late the following week, so it got pushed. We know services was 3 business days, so 1st, 3rd, 4th, right? So you can see the services there. Sorry, 1st, 4th and 5th, 4th being the Monday, the 2nd business day, 5th being the 3rd business day. Don't forget, if you follow crude oil inventories, there you've got it there, the weekly. You got your CPI, right, week 2. Do you remember, as we said, when you got a late start, you can almost exclude that week as being a week in terms of the counting. Week 1, week 2, you can consider that to be week 1. Week 2, you got your CPI, retail sales. Obviously, again, because of the way the weeks fell, it got squeezed into that spot there. Plus the fact that they may have got the data slightly a day early or so. So again, it got slightly pushed, but all in the right place as expected. Approximately all in the right place. We then go out, nothing week 3. We know retail sales already happened on that Friday there. So there's nothing there, right? And we also know in October there's no FOMC because our calendar has no meeting in October. Sometimes that can put a little bit more, how do I say it, focus on what the Fed is saying during his speeches when there is a bit of a gap between FOMC meetings, but it isn't a big gap. Look, you see there, it's week 3 straight onto the 1st week of November. It's not like it's the 4th week of November. So might have a little bit more focus on what the Fed chairman is saying. No hard and fast rules. And you've got advanced GDP, which is obviously going to be a lot of focus on that because there's no FOMC this month. You've got the advanced GDP, so a lot of people will be looking at that because it's the first opportunity for people to see what the economic situation was as a whole in terms of, don't forget, I talked about in the last module what GDP is. We're bringing everything together into kind of one number plus another several hundred data releases, but ultimately we're bringing everything together. So that would be quite a big heavy focus in that week, which we have here marked out perfectly. Okay, last couple of months and then we're there. November again, you can play the game. What are you expecting? First week of November, manufacturing, services couple days later, and then payrolls on the Friday. Is that what we get? Yes, we do. Manufacturing, services couple days later, payrolls, right? Hopefully you can see, this is not something I've just made up, okay? This is how the very best traders in the world organize their trading when it comes to fundamentals, okay? Like this. Not what you see here, and I see every single person doing, okay, not that, okay, I don't know what that is, I don't know what people are doing, it's complete ridiculous, complete nonsense, I don't even have words for it, it's completely silly, okay, that's a little bit better, but it isn't, okay, it isn't that much better, even what you see here. People waking up on a Wednesday and checking, oh, I got the FOMC today. Oh, waking up on a Monday, oh, I got manufacturing. No. This will tell you well in advance, you will know. It will almost be ingrained in your system. Next month, week 1, manufacturing. In fact, I'm not even going to look there. Manufacturing, services, and payrolls Friday. This is what I would suggest you do, the same exercise. Try and just know it off by heart. Week 2 we have inflation data, the CPI. Week 3 we have retail sales, right? And then potentially FOMC depending if it falls in that week 3 or week 4 typically. And then week 4 we've got GDP. Okay, there you go. Know it. Right? You should be able to go, and this bit's sad, you should be able to go to the pub and know the calendar, right? Just know it. And the only way you can do that is by having this laid out and practicing. Okay, and then eventually it becomes second nature. You can almost see I'm doing it because I want to prove it to you. But before I even open the week, I know CPI is going to be there, and there it is, CPI. Week 3 we said retail sales, right? Because it's a normal month, it falls in the kind of normal pattern. No FOMC because we had it in the first week, didn't we? Yeah, we had FOMC in the first week. So actually, this first week was pretty heavy, wasn't it? If you think about it, we had manufacturing, we had services, we had the FOMC, and we had payrolls. Okay, so you know that's a big week you need to navigate. Well in advance, you can be preparing for that. Back to retail sales week 3, and then we know we've got not advanced GDP because we already had it in October for Q3. We've got the preliminary, which isn't as important. There you go, the preliminary, and then you got the meeting minutes. You know, let me just talk about the meeting minutes very quickly. So the meeting minutes, which you've got here, are typically 3 weeks later. So what will happen is you've got the FOMC release statement, right? First week, and then 3 weeks later, can you see 1, 2, 3? You've got the meeting minutes. The meeting minutes are not that important. It's kind of more just the statement. They release a statement, right, in the first week, this FOMC statement, which pretty much tells you, lays out what their plans are, the rates, and you know their plans when it comes to the balance sheet in terms of whether they're got any sort of quantitative easing going on, any stimulus from the balance sheet. Are they going to be buying treasuries or building up their balance sheet and obviously helping cash go into the economy, which obviously boosts the economy? Or are they doing none of that? Or what's their views on things and inflation and jobs market? And it's all very well summarized. The minutes go into more details, obviously, about what each member may have been talking about, and there's further details, and we are going to talk about those things, but that's why it takes kind of a back seat, because it's 3 weeks later anyway. Provides in-depth insights, but you've already pretty much had everything in the statement. But it's nice to look at, kind of see is there anything that wasn't mentioned in the statement, that more details have been given around, but generally a lot less focus from traders on that. And then the final month, again, slightly truncated week there, 1, 2, 3. So therefore we expect the calendar to be slightly, need to be fine-tuned. You've got manufacturing there on the first business day, and you've got the services, and you've got the payrolls. Okay, so rather than it being, all that's happened is rather than it being Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's become Wednesday, Friday, Friday. As in manufacturing on Wednesday, services on the Friday, and payrolls on the Friday. But for all intents and purposes, it's doing exactly what it should. It's in the first week. It's on the first business day, manufacturing. It's on the third business day, services. And it's on the first Friday. Okay. Do you see they didn't push it? This time they had a couple of days. The Bureau for Labour Statistics, to get all the data together, they had a couple of days. So they were happy to do it as they should. If this was December the 1st, we might have expected the payrolls to be the following week, right? Because like I said, it then doesn't give them much time between November the 30th and the 1st. They have to almost release it immediately, which obviously is not necessarily plausible for them to do that. Second week, we've got CPI as expected. Third week, we've got retail sales as expected. And then obviously going into the final week, we've got the final GDP. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully there, you don't even need to take my word for it. You've done the exercise yourself and you're sitting there thinking, wow, amazing. This is going to make my life so much easier. This is brilliant. Hopefully you found that very useful. What I'm going to leave you to do, we can do it together, but we can almost fly through it, but maybe you can kind of do it in much more detail than I'm going to do with you. You can go through the calendar and just check claims. Let's check these peripheral ones very, very quickly. You'll see. What you'll have to do is obviously switch off that, because obviously some of these might be categorized as low impact on this calendar, but I do like to keep my eye on them. Claims, you can see there. What have we put here? Every Thursday. Okay. I haven't put them here every Thursday because I don't want my calendar to get messy. Otherwise I'll have claims here, claims here. I already know it's every Thursday. I only need to put it in the first week. Every Thursday, you can go through the whole calendar and you'll see unemployment claims every Thursday. Okay, every Thursday. Do you see? You don't need to check the calendar here. You've already got it here. You know claims is every Thursday. It's not a shock when it comes. You already knew. You know well in advance. And that claims is every Thursday. Excuse me, just have a drink. You know it's every Thursday, so obviously get that out of the way. Then you can check meeting minutes. What I want you to do, we won't do it together. I won't go through every single one, but let's do it for a couple of them. When was the meeting? January the 27th was the meeting. So let's go to it. FOMC, right? 3 weeks later, I am expecting the minutes to come out. Does that happen? Let's check. So the 3rd week of February, because this is the final week of Jan. So where are we? 1, 2, 3. There we go. Meeting minutes. Okay. Exactly where I expect it. So I want you to do this exercise, right? Go and check. Whenever I have an FOMC, do I get meeting minutes 3 weeks later? Prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. And you will see every single time we have an FOMC, 3 weeks later, minutes are released. PPI is typically around, I think this is slightly off. It says here 13 days, but it's typically when CPI happens. So is that the case? Basically, let's go and check for a couple of them, right? So there's CPI. Is PPI within plus or minus a couple days? Yes, it is. There's PPI, right? CPI, 2 days later, I got PPI. You know, we can even go and check a random month, right? Let's check May. When do we expect CPI? Week 2. So let's go to week 2. There's my CPI. Thank you very much. Is my PPI within a couple of days, plus or minus? Yes, it is. There you go. So you can check a lot of these, right? Go and do this as an exercise. Get familiar with the calendar. You know, I'm sure you agree with me. You know, if you want to be the best at this, this is the type of stuff you need to be doing. You need to have an intimate understanding of where things fall. It's so basic. Industrial production tends to be around week 3. Okay. Here, it fell just a day earlier, but still roughly in the right place. Where are we? For some reason, I haven't put the release schedule there, but let me just put this in. Released monthly around 16 days. Let's put that in there. Paste, keep source formatting. Oh no, sorry. Do you see, if you keep the source formatting, it's slightly different. You need to match destination formatting, this one. Okay, there you go. So match destination format. So about 16 days, okay? And in fact, let's just put a grid around that so it's nice and neat. It's about 16 days, okay? So this, on this occasion, it's on the 14th day. Again, like I said, it's the Federal Reserve. When they're collecting the data, if they have it on time, a day early, they're not going to wait and say, let's wait the weekend and release it. They're going to release it if they have the data. You can see here 16, 15, 17, 15. So roughly 16 days, okay? Just happened to be, they had the data slightly early. So that's industrial production. It is in the kind of place I was expecting it. We can see here, it should be in this week, right? Normally about 16, 15, 16, 17. Where is it? Can we see it here? Industrial production, there we go, 15th. Okay, so as expected, and it is in the 3rd week this time. It's exactly where you kind of roughly expect it. Housing data, again, I want you to prove to yourself that housing data does fall around the same area. Does it? Yes, it does. Housing starts, building permits. Okay. The new home sales, there's 4 of them. There's building permits, there's housing starts. So I'll show you. We're going to build them, don't worry. So you can see here, home sales. So you've got new home sales. In fact, let's look here. You've got housing permit, and I believe that should be building permits. Building permits. Let me just change this as well. Don't worry, we're going to build all this together. I think it's called building permits and not housing permits, but for some reason I had it housing. It's all called housing, aren't they? Home sales, housing starts. Anyway, I put it as home permit or housing permit for some reason. Building permits, housing starts are the first ones released. A little bit more focused on those because before you build anything, obviously you, and I mentioned this I think before, you need a permit to build, right? So it is typically something that is most focused on rather than the other two in my experience. So you know, it's good that it's released, and also the fact that it's released earlier. Then I believe the home sales is a little bit later. Yeah, you can see it there. Existing home sales and new home sales a few days later. I just like to lump it in there on my calendar as housing data, but it's around the third week, right? So you can see it is exactly where expected. Permits, housing starts third week, and then a few days later you've got existing home sales, new home sales. So again, go and double check these things. Make sure you're happy with what I'm telling you. Trade data, week 4, right? Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 4. Goods trade balance, right? Go and check the whole year like we just did for the major data, and you will see that you have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. That was a short week, so it should be in this week, shouldn't it? Let's see if I can find. I don't seem to be able to see it here. The goods trade data. There we go. Sorry, I got a little bit lost. Goods trade balance as expected in week 4, so it is there. You got core PCE. There you go in the 4th week. Okay. Again, I think I did mention to this several times, but I like to have it there, but it's got less attention because obviously CPI is released a couple of weeks earlier. So, but I like to look at the PCE anyway. But we've got it in white there. It's low-level data, but nice to just kind of, as you develop as a fundamental person, you can bring this into your repertoire, into your knowledge bank a bit later. For now, just satisfy yourself that what you put on this spreadsheet is not a load of rubbish, right? Because it's so important that you have confidence in what you're writing down and doing. You know, final words I leave you with, I said it in the Pro and Foundation course. Whenever my boss used to tell me something, I might have been working at the best investment bank in the world, in my opinion. I told him, sorry mate, you told me that and I'm grateful you told me, but I need to check that for myself, because I'm not going to put the bank's money or my own money on something that I don't know that someone's just told me. No, I need to check the source for myself. So that's why I say, come and check. Don't just take my word for it that trade balance is here, PCE is here every 4th week. Go and check for yourself. Yeah, it is. Oh, you know what? Envy's right, it is there. August. Let me go check 4th week. Oh, there it is, core PCE. Yeah, he's right. Whatever else I need to check, he's correct. And that's about it. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Really excited to have got that done. If you don't mind, what we could do is just in fact, I don't know if we'll do it now. I wanted to make that tab black. I like to keep it black because it's the main focus. You can see I like that. It's kind of like the start of the whole tab range. So what you do, not sure if your function or your Excel version may have it. In fact, I might be covering it. Oh no, I'm covering the tab. Oh no, I'm not. That's why I've raised myself a little bit up from the edge of the screen. Just make sure you can see that. No, you won't be able to see it. I'm behind it. Basically what you need to do is, if you go here and then you right click on the tab and you say tab color, you can change it to black or whatever color you want. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. Tab color black. Do you see it just turned black? So now if I open a new tab, can you see it's now black? Okay. So we are now going to take a break, take some time, relax, do the exercise. You don't have to just do it once. Go through, check all of this data that you have here. I think it's about 15 pieces, isn't it? You can check here the count. Yeah, there you go, 15 right at the bottom, you can see it. Go and make sure, check this calendar 5 times, 10 times if you have to, and just make sure you are satisfied that what you have here is in the right place, and then start to get excited that going forward you are now going to be ahead of pretty much every trader out there, because you're going to know in week 1, just to kind of summarize again, manufacturing services payrolls, week 2 inflation, week 3 retail sales and potentially FOMC, week 4 GDP. I promise you, walk into any economics department or bank and you tell them week 1 manufacturing services payrolls, week 2 inflation, week 3 retail sales, week 4 GDP and potentially FOMC, they are going to know You know your stuff inside out. So really excited for you, and really excited for the next tabs we're going to be building. And we're now going to move on, and we're going to start building all these tabs. And don't worry, the actual analysis and understanding of everything is yet to come. This is going to be an incredible course. We're going to cover all these things in good time. But how can we start talking about manufacturing unless we have the data? How can we start talking about what to think about going ahead unless we have everything laid out for us, right? As we do here. You can't do it unless you have the data. You know, I can't, it's up to you. I can't, you know, do an analysis when I've got stuff like this in front of me. And that's just 1 week, right? That's just 1 week. But unless I've got things laid out for me, you know, I can't do analysis. I don't know about you, but I can't. So let's get the data together. Let's get everything together so we can do the analysis. That's what we're going to do in the next sections. Is we're going to be really exciting. We're going to be building all this out so you can track. You know, okay, I know manufacturing is next week, but so what? Oh, okay, manufacturing has been, you know, above 60 for the last few weeks and maybe even months. So maybe I don't need to focus on that so much because it's doing well, and probably I'm going to get a similar reading. So maybe it's not that important this month. You know, stuff like that. Or, you know, maybe manufacturing has been doing stuff like this or stuff like this. Oh, wow, I need to focus on that because I don't know where on earth it's going to be this month. The market's going to be looking at that. How can you do that unless you have the data laid out like this in a nice graphical format? I do not see this stuff anywhere. Can you see it here? I can't see it anywhere. I'm going to say it one more time and probably another 100 times. Complete shambles the way people look at this stuff. It's almost embarrassing. And we're going to get you out of that. Let's get you building the tabs in the next section. Can't wait. See you in the next module.